Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, February 28th, 2017. I'm Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. If it's Tuesday and it's Ohio, it's gray. And Duane Long is in Columbus, ready to spew some knowledge. Duane, how are you this fine morning?
Well, trying not to look outside and see the gray. I mean, come on, man. This is ridiculous.
If you were to look outside right now in Dayton and didn't have a clock, you would not know what time it was. You would think it was 5:30 in the evening. But anyway, I digress. Things are sunny on the recruiting front for your Ohio State Buckeyes. Tomorrow, Jaelen Gill, a standout offensive force from Westerville South in the Columbus suburbs, will announce his commitment. Considering over the weekend on the Bucknuts 90, I asked Bill Croach who number 2 was, and neither one of us could even come up with it. We assume he's going to Ohio State. Not trying to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but Gill is a guy they have recruited heavily since he became a high school star. He is at the WAC routinely, and all signs point to him becoming the next Buckeye. Your thoughts on Gill? It's a player you know pretty well from the area, what he could do at Ohio State and kind of where he fits in the class.
This is a great get all the way around. Kid's a dynamic playmaker. He's got a burst. I mean, he's blowing by people. And, you know, we talk about if I'm even, I'm leaving. Yeah, he's one of those kind of players. That kind of speed just blows by people. This is going to be an outstanding get. I mean, we're going to be missing Tate because he got hurt so early last year. We don't really have anything but scrimmage tape on him. But this is a kid we want. You know, we're not going to worry about position. We keep talking about that. Stop worrying about it. He's either going to be a running back or a wing back. And either way, we're going to be better off. Great get. And, you know, I don't know what he's been waiting on because I think they've got a cot set up for him somewhere in the WAC. He's been there so much. I mean, well, what are you doing, dude? And like you said, who's number 2? Has he been anywhere? I mean, he's just not. He said he wanted to wait, but he hasn't been going anywhere, hasn't been doing anything with it. So, yeah, it's not like he's not going to be able to visit. Schools, this is a player that can change a game with one touch. Other schools are going to let him continue to visit. They're going to still recruit him. So it's pointless to you know, for him to wait. So this is good. We'll get it done, get a great kid in our class.
He is what I call a seam buster, or an angle buster. If you watch some of his tape, there are guys who clearly have the angle on him, and he literally has that kind of quick twitch speed. I don't know and he can just run away. So he also is a little bit bigger than you might think. I had a chance to see him in person on the sideline at an Ohio State game when he was visiting. He's at least an inch or 2 taller than I am, and believe it or not, I look up at 6 feet barely, so he's got a lot of potential. He did have kind of an ominous social media thing last night. He tweeted out something that I think can be interpreted a lot of different ways. What's your vibe on it?
I think he's going to IMG. First, we got to look at, he has a teammate that did the same thing. Marcus Williamson went down to IMG for his senior year. So, you know, and you got to look at, he's on a team that is just going to routinely get bashed by Pickerington North, Pickerington Central. They're just not a very good football team. He's not getting anywhere. So, you know, go down there, get in a great training facility, get on a good football team that can help him be a better football player. This would be great. I think it just all around. You know, Westerville they're just going to get killed this year again. This is a good thing. And, you know, it also keeps him locked in. Not that he was going to be not locked in at Westerville South. Always been a school where it was good for Ohio State. But at IMG, it'll just be protected that much more. So, good news.
Yeah, Marcus Williamson, as you mentioned, attended Westerville South and went down to IMG. We all know how that's turning out. Also, it's very helpful, I would think, to send a guy from Ohio who's committed to Ohio State down to IMG. Maybe Jaelen Gill can get in the ear of some of his teammates next year because we all know that IMG is just a simple factory of Division I talent. So we're all looking forward to that. Keep it locked to Bucknuts for sure. Tomorrow we will have a guy at the event, complete coverage of Gill's announcement and his hopeful entrance into the Buckeye family officially. Number 2, Since this is your specialty, the offensive line, Patrick Murphy's series on previewing the team, just went over the offensive line, very nice piece. If Duane was the head coach or the coach stud, moving left to right, starting with left tackle, who would be the starting offensive line when the Buckeyes head to Bloomington to face the fighting former Kevin Wilsons?
Well, obviously, you start with Jamarco Jones. This guy is so solid. He's going to be an NFL player. The one thing I say about an offensive lineman, if you're not talking about him, that's good. You don't want to stand out on the offensive line, really. You just, do your job, get things done. Because when an offensive lineman is being talked about, it's usually because he's making mistakes. That's why we talk so much about Billy Price. That's why we talk so much about Isaiah Prince. They're just not, it's a bad thing when an offensive lineman catches your attention. And Jamarco Jones never catches your attention. Then you look at left guard. I'm going Michael Jordan. People think he's going to get moved. I don't know why you move him. One of the old adages of football is you don't weaken one position to strengthen another. You just don't do it. And he can start as a freshman here. And again, he was not a kid that you heard a lot about because he was getting his job done. At center, this is the problem thing. We talk about Billy Price moving to center, and I go back to the fact that Billy Price had more offside, more motion penalties than the rest of the line put together last year. He was, and as a center, he's snapping the ball. So if he's moving early, you know what you have, Dan? You have fumbles. You have fumbled snaps from center. Quarterback's not expecting the ball. You're almost better off in a shotgun in that situation because the ball's at least going to be in your backfield when it hits the quarterback in the head. If he's under center, that ball's just as likely to fall back underneath the pile, and then you got to change of possession. You got a problem. So I'm very uncomfortable with Billy Price being the center. You've got Brady Taylor there right now, but what I'm hoping is, we've heard of Matthew Burrell. He's a guy that came here to play center. Hopefully he can do a little bit more and step up. You have to look at Wallaball, who is a kid he can only play center. He's too small to play anywhere else. And I am not going to believe this thing. He's 290 pounds. I don't believe that. There's no way that a kid that played his senior year of high school was about 250 pounds, and now 1 year later he's 290. No, don't try that. So we've got candidates. I don't know. I do not like the Price move. I like Price where he was at right guard, and that's where I'm going to put him. He had problems over there. I didn't see him so many times. I saw him miss stunts, loop a end inside, and he'd stay with his man and bang, right in the quarterback's face as a defensive lineman. I'm just not completely sold on Billy Price. Too many mistakes, jumping, misreading the blocks, and it didn't help Isaiah Prince either. That Price could be a guy that was not completely sound himself. And at right tackle, I'm going with Malcolm Pridgeon. That's why I brought in here, Dan. You do not bring in a JUCO guy to redshirt. He was brought in here to start. And that's one of the things about Prince that really hurt him. He was not ready, and he wasn't expected to be ready. They expected Prince to take that right tackle job and give Prince time to get seasoned. Well, he got thrown into trial by fire, and wow, did he get burned. I think Pridgeon takes the job away from him, and is our starting right tackle, and we solidify that position.
Very interesting. Got to give Duane credit. He does not go with the pat answer. I'll be very interested to see what happens. To me, the Pridgeon decision is the one that has the biggest trickle-down effect. While I do understand you have concerns with Price, I just don't see another alternative there. I think that's almost a done deal. I'm not saying it's going to be a great move, I just think in terms of actually what's going to happen, he will be the center. Right tackle to me, like you said, is the most interesting one, and we shall see. I don't know, man. I kind of I hope it's Prince. I will say that, because that will mean they've coached him up and feel confident. If I had to bet on it, I'd probably bet on Pridgeon. Go ahead.
Well, you're probably end up going to be right on Price, that they're saying he's the lesser of several evils, because nobody stood up and took the job. You know, we didn't see a lot of a backup center, and when you've got a senior at center, you'd like to have somebody come in behind him. And we had several blowout games, but we didn't really see anybody come in at center and show that they're ready to take over the position. You'd like to get him some seasoning if somebody was really standing out. So it may be that. You got better options at guard, because if Pridgeon takes the job, you wonder what they're going to do with Prince at that point. I don't see a guard body in him. I've always said you can move tackles to guard, but he's just not a good fit there. It doesn't seem like. So I don't know what happens at that point. At that point, after seeing Demetrius Knox complain for 2 years about not playing time, then he finally gets in and absolutely looks awful. I wonder if that's where we see. Here's a scenario that could happen, Dan, very easily. We're looking at Josh Myers, and I've been saying for the longest time that I believe he's a guard. He could play right tackle, but his best position is just going forward and destroying people. He may change the dynamic there. That they say, okay, we're going to put our best five on the field at the same time, and that means Price at center and Josh Myers at right guard. The kid's just such a powerhouse, and that is so key to young offensive linemen coming in and starting, that they get overpowered. They're 18 years old, maybe 19, and they're going up against grown men who have been in college weightlifting programs for 4 or 5 years. He's not going to be. That's not going to happen. You put him at guard. You don't have to worry about the pass protection as much. It's just, defensive tackles rushing. You got some guys that are really quick, but for the most part, defensive tackles are going to be bull rushing, and nobody's going to run over Josh Myers. So that's a scenario that could evolve very easily.
Yeah, these are what I refer to as good problems when you have several quality options to go to. Myers would be that. If we're having to juggle veterans that we're not confident in, I just assume put Myers in there. That's always been my feeling. The beauty, I've always said this, the beauty of playing a freshman at Ohio State is every high school senior in the country sees that, and junior for that matter, high school juniors. So the idea of when they tell you in the living room, if you're good enough to play, you're going to start. When they can show you freshmen who have started, Michael Jordan, Josh Myers, if it's him, that's a very, very strong recruiting tool. So I'm really interested to see how that works out. All right, we'll finish with this. The NFL Combine begins on Thursday. For those who don't know, it's the annual talent show held in Indianapolis where a certain number, I believe 330 draft hopefuls are invited and get put through a battery of tests. It's actually really set up for them to get extensive medical testing, get everyone in one place for that, but they also do interviews. The guys will all run the 40. Everyone has seen the coverage of it. The Buckeyes last year sent a ton of guys, got another great bunch of guys going this year. Of all the Buckeyes headed to Indianapolis, who do you think will make themselves the most money this weekend?
Marshon Lattimore. Absolutely. You think how highly he's rated anyway. I just happened to be going over some NFL drafts yesterday. So I was just looking around, went over 3 of them, or maybe I went over 4. I can't remember. And I didn't see him outside of the top 10. He was the number 1 cornerback on every draft. and they haven't seen this stuff out of him yet. And that's why I think he's going to get, I think I've seen him as high as 5 in one. But I don't think they've seen what he's going to do athletically. I mean, this kid, I think he's going to measure at least 6 foot, maybe 6'1". I don't think they were expecting that for sure. He's going to be a solid 200-pound kid, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say he runs 4.45. I think that's what they're going to be shocked at. They're putting him number 1 cornerback because of film, and he rightly deserves it because he just absolutely shut down receivers last year. You know, teams might as well have been playing with 10 people. Open up the field more. Get somebody. We're playing with 10. You got to play with 10. He was just that good. He's really outstanding versus the run. I mean, he really fights to get through blocks, and he broke up so many slip screens last year just because he refused to be blocked and fought through, and you know, those plays just were not. They weren't positive plays like they had been in the past. So I think Marshon Lattimore is the one that's going to light him up. I would have been more inclined. I would have had to choose between he and Malik Hooker if Hooker was going to be there, but we know he's not going to be. But yeah, that's who I think is going to be the kid that's going to even improve his stock more.
Well, you think about it, if Lattimore even goes up 2 spots, you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. I've seen him as high as 2 on some boards. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah. I have to go back and check. And those things fluctuate, and whether those guys know what they're talking about is subject to debate. I'm going to kick this up a notch here and say the Marshon Lattimore experience at Ohio State is going to allow Ohio State to even recruit even better. Because now, even internally, every kid on the sideline who got to Ohio State maybe a little bit nicked up and had trouble busting in and getting his groove because of injuries, they can point to Lattimore, to all of them, and say, look, and I said this before, Lattimore entered last season, or he was known as a guy with bulky hamstrings for a long time. That was what he was known for. So in a year's time, he went from a guy who was kind of, everyone remembered him getting beat at against Western Michigan, to a guy who's going to be the wealthiest guy in his tax bracket. Very impressive. So I think it helps on recruiting on so many levels when you can do that. It shows what they can do with prospect. You combine the fact that they're taking a guy who was known as a basketball player as a junior in high school, and he's going to also go on the top 10 of Malik Hooker. I think this draft, this combine, is going to serve Ohio State just as well as the one did before that, and we all know that one might be the greatest of all time. So
think about this with Western Michigan, though. Corey Davis may be the best receiver in the draft, too. And we saw him beat Eli Apple. The Corey Davis is outstanding.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, when I saw Lattimore get beat in that game, it was either him or Daniel Braverman. I can't remember. It was like, oh, he was the nickel guy who couldn't hack it. If we had anybody make that kind of leap this year, it would be tremendously impressive. We appreciate Duane stopping by. A meaty show for you there. Once again, we will have complete coverage of the Jaelen Gill announcement ceremony tomorrow at Westerville South. Then we will have Steve Hellwagon at the Combine for the entire time to get the Ohio State vibe. Have a good one, Bucknutters.